Common sources of secondary data for social science include census by research organization.
Like the primary data, the first you are going to search something. Like here, you can see in the picture ways to collect the data. You see here is the information, just the information, raw information is called the data. Now this part you can see they are making some interview. So while you meet with someone at initially first step, it means that you are going for the primary data. You see, I define primary data. So here you can see we are involved in the primary data. In even the questionnaire filling, I think you have observed some kind of like questionnaire by taking the different kind of like excellent, very good, good. This is also the primary data because you first time go to collect this. Now you see this person, like it's a secondary data. I defined here. He is searching for the secondary data. He is exploring the website. He is exploring the like different published papers. And this one, I put this picture. Why? It's a research and development organizations. Especially, even after the doctorate degrees, many doctors join the research and development organizations like this one because they perform to research on different topics. So while you go to the research and development organization, if a researcher goes, it means he is going to collect the secondary data, not the primary data. So I think hopefully you have cleared that idea. What's the primary and what's the secondary? The next one I will move. I continue like I want to just, it includes the data analysis. While you have collected the data, it means that it is valuable or not valuable. Like organize and prepare the data for analysis, read all data, get a sense of a whole, begin detailed analysis with coding process, generate a description of the setting, people as well as categories or themes for analysis. Represent themes, writing, visual, etc. Interpret and make meaning out of the data. Like if you get any information, after that you analyze which part is the beneficial, which is our answer. You can see according to this picture, you can analyze. First, find the information. We find a data. After that, explore the facts. We will see the facts. We will focus on the facts, and the last we will get the answer. So data has been analyzed in different ways. The next one I want to move is the seventh step. It's the second last step. It's going to end, don't be worried, just within 3 to 4 minutes. The seventh step is the discussion and conclusion. Like we are going for research, we have identified our problem, we have set our strategies, even the methodology of the research. The next, even we have analyzed the data after collection. The next step, discussion. Like we will get together, discuss that matters. Like which part is necessary, why, what we have to do, the action or process of exchanging ideas, views and opinion about a research problem in order to reach a decision is referred as a discussion. So this is also a part of our research which we are going to search. So according to this picture, you can see here they are discussing, like after analyzing the data they want to come to a point. So what will be our next point is the conclusion. You see, the conclusion is the end result of a particular issue. When you write a paper, you always end up by summarizing your arguments and make final findings, drawing up a reasonable conclusion. Like according to this picture, I tried my level best, my presentation in the form of pictures because of the easy understanding. We can focus on this one. Like this one, you see it's a red point. It's the conclusion. We will get information from this area, this area, this area, this area, and finally we will reach at our conclusion. Like what we have to find last for the betterment of the organization, betterment of your research, betterment to resolve the problem. The next one is a little bit continue. I will just tell you, it's a very second loss. fill gap for success toward globalization. Now a little bit I am relating it with the globalization. Like in the global world, socio-economic development, we have many problems facing. So to resolve that problem, that conclusively we will come out with appropriate skills, tactics or strategies to solve research problems that slow down socio-economic development toward globalization, success and competitiveness. Now I am going to define you. I need your attention please for this last visual effects. Like here you can see I defined this was our gap or problem. So the problem we want to move to the success. So here this person, like this is the gap here. Now we are going to fill this gap. The final conclusion we will make the remedies like the measurements to fill this gap. While they will fill it the gap, automatically they can move, even enhance the business relations. In the border activities, you know many different kind of taxes are involved, import and export, like many taxes. There are some free duties even. We don't have the taxes in the different, but even I belong to Pakistan. Even the China and the Pakistan has a very good friendship from last 50 years. So we are moving to the success. You know, at this point we will move to the success. The very last point, which is very informative, especially for the new students, especially involved in the master's degree, in the PhD degree, even the bachelor's they can look for research. The very last we define that is the publication. You know, while we have completed our work, if you are master degree holder, doctor's degree holder, you have finalized, at the last point, conclusion, you will give some recommendation. You will justify your recommendation. Then your research is the valuable. And while we impacted on different organizations in the different fields, so that time we got the success. So it became an information. Now students don't know even how to publish. So at this last point, while we conclude our results and finalize the report, then we can find many journals, even the online, and can request for research work to publish. But for this, our findings should be justified. Already I told you, justification is necessary. With strong proof and recommendations, after reviewing our research by review committees, our papers can be published in different journals, like in the different magazines, different very popular journals in the world for the economic development. Different organizations, research and development organizations have different journals. Even the many top level universities have the different. You see the last one at this point is the publication. It's the very end, like I have end my presentation.
Okay.
Like here you see is the publication. So while your work will be published in different organizations, research, magazines or journals. So I have finally concluded my presentation. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if any information more you want to learn, even if you have any question, you can do it now. Even later, if you have any information you want to need any information, you can contact with the LUSIAR. No problem. Welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Zubair Sahid Muhammad Sheikh, because he doesn't want to see his name, one of his names eliminated or technically deleted. That's why I lay emphasis in outlining all the names. Thank you very much for this salient outline about research, the significance of research. I would specifically or distinctly emphasize on the significance of what he has just outlined. Considering what is before us as a computer, the invention of computer stems from typewriters. Initially we used typewriters, not so. There were people who critically listened and realized that let's have a movement, let's have a headway from this ordinary typewriter and to another invention. That prompted research. And the discovery of this computer as a smooth sail towards the academia today is as a result of those who had or engaged in research some time ago. So research is of importance. I will not go further to segment what he has outlined, but I will now call on 2 questions before we move on.
If anyone wants to ask no problem, if any information regarding this topic is welcome.
If the information is satisfactory, then we step further. Yes.
Just one short question. Could you give me the name of the book or the author of these 8 points that you mentioned? Or it's your own creation?
Well, the reference,
yes,
you can contact LUSIAR immediately after the conference. It will be made available to you.
Everything, if you want this, even by email, you will contact us, the LUSIAR will provide you.
It's not question, it's comment. I understand what she wanted to say. She wants to say when you write the definitions, it's better to follow the rules. That means citation. On your point, you define research, is defined as this. And maybe in your original paper you have that thing, but for your present you put the citation where according to which definition.
Yeah, you mean to say references. Actually, I want to answer you. Actually, some of the definitions I also told you. Even I used business dictionary. Even online you can find. Even the Wikipedia, even the basic information, the very good information is there. You can find that things. Even I'm also the PhD student, like philosophy of doctorate. Even some definitions I put even through my ideas, what I have to define in the simple English. Because I tried my level best of the communication. Even I tried my level best to use the very simple English here, because while you say something, if your information is not communicated, is useless. There's some I did by myself, even some references you can.
Easier.
Question?
Yeah, I have a question. I want to thank the presenter for his brief presentation. He mentioned 2 types of research: quantitative research and qualitative research. What I want the presenter to explain to this gathering, research restricted only to either quantitative, qualitative, or both. That's what I want you to explain to these people. It's not a question, actually, but to get the idea whether people can only go with quantitative or go with quantitative or both.
I can tell you.
I want you to make that
Even
clear.
I want to clear this thing, like he's asking why we have to go to only the quantitative research, even for the qualitative work. Actually, it's based on your requirement. Like if you are going to count the population of a country, like in Russia, in the Pakistan, like census, population census are there. In the next year, maybe in our country, in Pakistan, they will count the population of the whole country. So you will just adopt the quantitative method. Like because you want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, how many people. Even it's based on your requirement. Like sometimes, especially in the physical, like physics, chemistry, biology, like you want to know the results of the medicines. If you are going to discover a medicine, so you will focus on the qualitative work. Even you will make some experiments and you can get the qualitative ideas. Even if you are going to enhance your value of your product, then what you have to do, you will focus on surveys, different communities. Like if you are students, then I can ask the value of the liauda, how you are getting, even it's based on your mind, the qualitative work. Even sometimes you can go for both.
That's right.
Some ideas from here, some ideas from here.
Thank you, Muhammad Zubair Said Sheikh. It's in simple terms that it can be used both can be used, or it can be used separately, depending on the drive of the researcher.
Yeah.
I take up the privilege and honor again to
just to add up on the racial issue, I really want to take the opportunity to crave the indulgence of students, both in and out of any university, that LUSIAR is engaged in thorough racial work. If you have your ideas, you are interested in publishing your papers in English, you can operate in LUSIAR. Now we are extending our hands in other universities all around China. We have published some papers with even from university from Wuhan, Dada University, as well as Changchun and the like. So we want to create the indulgence of students in particular at Nile University, and the charity begins at home. If you have ideas, just draft them, we come, we discuss, we try to build up papers and publish in journals. Especially for masters and PhD students, it's very, very advantageous for you. That is just that. If you are interested, you undergo LUSIAR. Thank you.
We are here as international students to do things collectively. Collective research, I think it's meaningful and it's beneficial to all of us. We are here for just a while as international students, and we'll soon go back to our different homes. But let's also make a mark. That's always what I stand to achieve. Make a mark where you are, so that when you go, others can easily follow your footsteps. A lot of us here are determined to be leaders tomorrow. So let's engage in research, collective research, and make meaningful contribution to academia, to the improvement of society and the like. I mean, I'll call on the third presenter, who is a graduate in economics and a master's in economics from Ethiopia. He's also a colleague on the other side, simply means he is a lecturer in one of the universities in Ethiopia. I will now present to you Berliner Kassar, a potential president of Ethiopia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, guests, colleagues, and audiences. Now it's time for me to present my title. I hope you can hear me without mic. So, before I go to my direct topic, let me introduce to the main theme, socio-economic development and globalization. Socio-economic development and globalization. Okay, let's imagine one country. What is the macroeconomic objective of any country? The macroeconomic objectives. One of the macroeconomic objectives to bring economic growth. To bring economic growth. Economic growth, it is a prerequisite for economic development, what we call socio-economic development. Economic growth, just to count it, like an increase in GDP. It is a prerequisite for economic development. One macroeconomic objectives of any nation. Okay, much is said before about the theme, the socio-economic development. So let me give you small things. So from the macroeconomic objectives, we have one, economic growth, and which is a prerequisite for economic development. When we say economic growth and economic development, the two are different. Economic growth, just an increase in output, the value of output. Economic development, it is a change in, positive change in the well-being of the society. The well-being of the society. Socio-economic development, social development, quality of life. So we bring from macroeconomic objectives is socio-economic development. Now, let's see the world. What looks like the world now? The world becomes a village. The world becomes a village. On this world, on this highly integrated world, highly interrelated world, one country, how can one country cope with the rest of the world? One country, let's take China. China will not stand alone. China is related with the rest of the world through different channels. I will take one channel. It might be economic channels. The economic channels, it might be finance or trade. Finance and trade. So we are in the era of globalization. We are in the era of globalization. Okay, so for this, let me take one small economy from Africa. one small open economy from Africa, Ethiopia. That is, Ethiopia is related with the rest of the world through trade, one channel. But what looks like trade in Ethiopia, international trade? What looks like international trade? When we say international trade, we may say export of goods and services and import of goods and services. But what determines trade in Ethiopia? What determines export in Ethiopia? Okay, I will use this empirical analysis, and the previous presenters like Zulia, he presents the way how to conduct research. And the first presenter introduces us how the superpower countries are influencing the small open economies. Like through the SAP, the Structural Adjustment Program, that says, which means the doctor is in the hospital and the patient is at his home, and the doctor tells us that there is a patient in my home. So he didn't diagnose the disease, what type of disease he has, but he writes a prescription, what the IMF and the World Bank are doing in Africa. Okay, so let's go to the main outlines of the presentation. Introduction, overview of Ethiopian export, performance, literature review, methodology, estimation results and investigations, final conclusions, and policy recommendations. I think I'm not interested to tell you that these variables determine Ethiopian export. For you students, just my interest here is to show you the way how we conduct research, to show you the methods, and I'm trying to show you the applications. Okay, so before I go to the main parts, let me give you some highlights about some jargons that I'm using here. Highlight some jargons. The unit roots and stationary time series data. Unit root and time series, stationary time series data. Our second presenter introduces you the types of data in research. Might be cross-sectional data. It might be cross-sectional data collected from cross-sectional units for a given variable. It might be data collected for a given variable over time. Might be GDP, economic growth. This Chinese total output in 2000, Chinese total output in 2001, like that. Okay, so in time series analysis, in time series data, in conducting time series data, the major problem is non-stationary nature of the data. What does it mean, non-stationary? A data is said to be stationary if the variance, the covariance, and the autocovariance of that variable is constant. When you say variance, how a variable deviates from its average trend. The variability of how the mean value deviates from its average, or how the actual value of a data deviates from the mean value, variability. So if the variance is not stationary, if it's not constant, we call it problem of stationary. There is problem of stationary. So in econometrics or in economics, we didn't regress a non-stationary variable. Regressing a non-stationary variable yields nonsense regression or nonsense result, or what we call it spurious regression. Okay, so we need to have stationary. And co-integration. Time series variables might be non-stationary, but the first difference of each time series variable might be stationary. That means they might be co-integrated. Two variables are said to be co-integrated if and only if the two variables are long-run relationship. So co-integrated variables is a prerequisite for long-run relationship. Vector autoregressive var. Vector autoregressive. That means autoregressive which means that autoregressive, a given variable, how a given variable, this year's output relates with last year's output, the same variable. So I use this vector because I'm using more than one variables. The other one, vector error correction model. The vector error correction model, it tells us the short-run dynamics of a relationship between variables. And the last one is endogenous and exogenous variable. The second presenter tells you about the dependent and the independent variable. Endogenous variable, a variable is determined within the model. Exogenous variable, if the variable is the fate of that variable is determined outside the model, that means it is exogenous. Okay, we are here. We are here now in this room. Now we may feel cold now, but it is exogenous. We can't control that. Okay, so let me go to the introduction for the sake of time. My title, Determinants of Export in Ethiopia. Why I am focused on export? Classical economists, as well as the modern liberal view, treat trade as an engine of economic growth. Why I am interested on economic growth? Because it is one of the macroeconomic objectives of any nation. Okay, if trade is an engine, considered as an engine of economic growth, many developing countries, even the developed nations, are striving to increase their trade in the international market because trade is considered as an engine of economic growth. They are striving to increase the volume of selling in the international market. Okay, according to some researches, while developing Asia's share, the developing Asian share increases from 11% in 1985 to 31% in 2005. They can increase their export in the international market. But when we compare these developing Asian countries with African share declines for the same period. In Asia, they can increase their export, but in Africa, our export declines for the same period. According to the IMF and the World Bank report also, what is the reason why African trade declines for that period? Some reports I highlight this. The problem is some deep-rooted structural problems. Weak policy frameworks, protection at home and abroad as a main constraint for a decline, or a main reason for the decline of Africa's share, reason for Africa's share to decline for the same period. Okay, Ethiopia is one of African countries. So, as in the case of many African countries, Ethiopia's exports are limited. Okay, there is another reason. That means African problem or African trade is declining because their export is highly dependent on primary export, primary commodities, in which there is no value add, just collect from the farm and sell it abroad. So, as in the case of other African countries, Ethiopian export has limited to primary commodities. That means being primary product is one reason for the decline share of their trade volume. Ethiopian export is also limited to some primary products. So according to some reports, the World Bank report, the Ethiopian manufacture, it is funny, the share of Ethiopia's manufactured export is only 9%. Only 9%, which means implies that primary agricultural commodities comprise about 91%. That means almost we are dependent on export of primary agricultural products. But if you see the same report from the World Bank report, when we look at the Chinese export, 94% is manufactured export, which implies almost 6% is primary products. And why? What's the problem if we export agricultural commodities? The agricultural sector operates in the mercy of nature. If nature is good, no problem. But we can't control nature. If demand increases in the international market, the manufactured products, manufactured firms can increase their sales volume overnight. But agriculture, we have to wait for a year to increase our export. Okay, hence agriculture is the most important determinant of Ethiopian export. Again, when we see the agricultural export of Ethiopia, it is characterized by great concentration on few agricultural exporters. From this, coffee accounts about more than half of total exports. The share of coffee is more than half of the total export of Ethiopia. So, what is the problem? So, this will be important to look into the performance of export in Ethiopia. This enables to look into the contribution of different export items, and the paper examines the determinants of export by considering both the demand side and the supply side of the determinants. What is the demand side and what is the supply side factors? Okay, when we come to the second part of the presentation, that is the statement of the problem. Okay, what is Ethiopian export is growing on average for the study period. Actually, I'm using the 40-year data, 40-year data, time series data. It's on average more than 15% increases on average over this period. But its performance is still small. This is what is the loophole, the gap. Its performance is still low. Why? It is evidenced by export to GDP ratio and declining share of export to import financing. Currently, export of goods is only 7% of Ethiopian GDP, which means export plays a very insignificant part of our total GDP. And it is also compared to 30% in Sub-Saharan Africa. Export per person is also very low in Ethiopia. It is $24 in Ethiopia versus $200 in Sub-Saharan Africa. Export per person. Total export value divided by total population. Growth rates are also very modest. Even when you look at the growth rate of export, it is low. Why? What is my criteria or what is my benchmark to say it is low? For example, Ethiopia's total exports were higher than that of Vietnam in 1980. But now, it's a tiny fraction in Ethiopia, $2 billion in Ethiopia versus $65 billion in Vietnam, according to capital access report. Similarly, the share of export and import financing contracted from the 1970-71 to 1979-80 on average level of, it was 88% over this year. Export, import financing, export over import. But now, it is 24.6, which means our import is by far greater than our export. Okay, with regard to the share of world exports, value. What is the share of Ethiopian export to the world market? Only 0.01%, according to the World Trade Organization report 2011. So, we can see from this one, there is problem in Ethiopian export. The performance is, we can say it is unsatisfactory. So, such unsatisfactory performance given different actions from the government and policymakers can boost the country's export. So, there is a need to identify the problems of Ethiopian exports. So the major objective of this study is to empirically investigate factors that determine the country's export performance by specifying an econometric model for the period specified for the 40-year. More specifically, I will try to show you some review performance of country's export, examine the trends and contribution of different items, and examine the long run and the short run dynamics of export. Overview, I will not take time on overview of Ethiopian export. Ethiopian export, if we look at the Ethiopian export, it is stagnant over a long period of time. It is stagnant. And even here, there is sharp decline about 1990s to 1991. This period was a period where Ethiopia has war with the neighboring Eritrea. Okay, and after this period, we can see that Ethiopian export is growing because of there was introduction of different export items like the horticulture, flowers, and other export items, diversification. When you see the real export growth rates, it shows ups and downs for all the same period and sharp decline for this period. This is the period for there is one. The percentage of export to GDP is also showing this. Total value of export to import ratio, GDP, we can see that for this period, export growth rate is this one. For this period, it is the period of the Gulf, which is a socialist region. Our export was growth rate is negative because of the policy that there was import substitution policy. So the Ethiopian government was not focusing on boosting Ethiopian export. Okay, when you see the average export share of some selected export items, coffee, as I said, it comprises more than half of the country's total export. The next highest is gas, followed by oilseeds. This is total the Ethiopian export composition. Okay, when you see the trends of major export items to the total export, look, coffee was the dominant export item, but now the share of coffee declines because of introduction of other improvements in other export items. This doesn't mean that coffee export declines, but the share of export declines because of introduction or diversification of Ethiopian export. Okay, let's come to the empirical parts, that is the methodology. The research, the methodology. The first part, data collection. Where is my data? Where I get my data to analyze. Time series secondary data have been used in this study. The time series secondary data have been used. Data for the study are mainly collected from the Ethiopian Economics Association, Statistical Database in Rome, the National Bank of Ethiopia, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank database. So when we come to the econometrics model specification part, the study focus on the demand and supply side determinants of Ethiopian export performance. The model that has been used in this paper is the adopted gold cement plan interface substitution model, which explains export as a function of different explanatory variables like the GDP of the trading partner, the effective exchange rate, trade openness, the GDP of the home country, infrastructural development, and financial development. The model is therefore akin to used by different researchers like Amin and others. In contrast, however, what is new in this model? The new thing in this model is the model includes the ratio of export and import to GDP as a measure of openness to trade, identified as the most important variables. Domestic products, which is identified as very important determinants of export by this researcher. Okay. So the model is the log linear model. The log linear model. Ln of export. Ln of export is alpha plus beta 1, ln of rigidity of trading partner, beta 2, ln of effective exchange rate, beta 3, ln of openness to trade, beta 4, ln of rigidity of home country, beta 5, ln of infrastructural development, beta 6, ln of financial sector development. Okay, these are the hypotheses. This is my hypothesis. Rigidity of trading partner, which means if your income increases and if I have a product to sell for you, that means your demand towards my product increases. Which means there is positive relationship between income of our trading partner and our export. And relative exchange theory, there is conflicting idea in theory. That's why I put it question mark. Some says negative, some says positive. Why it is negative? Why it is positive? For example, here I define effective exchange rate, that is domestic foreign currency as a ratio of domestic currency times foreign price index over domestic price index. So, which means if our domestic currency devalues, which means our product becomes cheap in the international market and hence our export increases, positive. To the reverse, when our currency is devalued, which means our currency is weak to buy inputs for production. That means cost of production increases. This discourages production. If we don't have production, we don't have export. Negative. So that's why it is negative. That's why it is positive. But in economics or in research, we say let the data talk. Let the data talk. Let's leave the decision for the data, our data. What Ethiopian data says about the relationship between export and exchange. And trade openness is the same. That means the more open to the external market, the more we can say positive. But sometimes when we open the That means there may be external shocks that comes from outside to inside, which affects our production. Negative. So it's positive and negative. The other is straightforward. That is infrastructure. When a good infrastructure is a means for production, and finance is source of production as well. Okay. The estimation technique. Let's go to the estimation technique. Many macroeconomic variables, time series are stationary at level and are not most adequately represented by first difference. They are not stationary. I say, we can't regress a non-stationary variable. If we regress a non-stationary variable, we may have false relationship. Let me give you one funny example for this. Let me take one, Russia and Ethiopia. In Russia, rainfall in Russia, do you believe that rainfall in Russia affects agricultural output in Ethiopia? Do you believe? Huh? But if we collect this data over time, there is change in rainfall in Russia. There is change in agricultural output in Ethiopia. If we regress, the regression result may show that there is strong relationship. Why? Because of time. Time. Because of time. There is time impact. That means that variables are not stationary. So we have to avoid the impact of time from our regression analysis. Okay, so how we can detect the regression, whether it is stationary or not? We can use thanks for economic research. We have methods. We can use the augmented decoupleur techniques and the decoupleur techniques to detect, like what the doctor uses some microscopes to identify the type of the disease, and data analysis can use different statistical packages to identify the nature of the data. Okay, so even though the individual time series are not stationary, no problem in co-integration analysis. Even though they are not non-stationary, the first difference might be stationary. But if those variables are stationary at the same order of difference, that means those variables are co-integrated. At the beginning, I said what is co-integration. Co-integration is, which means that there is no relationship between the two variables. Okay. Checking the order of integration, variables in model, after checking the order of integration, we can run to specify the above equation that ln of export is equal to solution. Okay, thus an unrestricted vector autoregressive formulated by Johansson can be used to estimate. Finally, whether the log-run parameters are obtained using Johansson co-integration analysis, the Johansson vector regression model has been also used. But in econometric analysis, in data analysis, we have to check the classical assumptions: normality, no autocorrelation, heteroscedasticity, multicollinearity. All these are diseases for data. So we have to detect these problems. So we use diagnostic tests on each step. So let's have the augmented decoupleur and decoupleur statistics values. This data shows that all the variables are not stationary. Of course, there's, I didn't give you the comparisons. There is this decoupleur statistic value. We can compare these numbers with the decoupleur statistic value. If these values are less than that statistic value, which means the variable is not stationary. That means there is a problem of unit root. So we can go to first difference and check the first difference. So there is change. When we take the first difference, that means we eliminate the impact of time. So the variable becomes stationary, which means all the variables are integrated of order 1. I1, I1, I1. Which means they become stationary after taking the first difference. I1, integrated of order 1. Okay. So in VAR analysis, we have to choose, I say, what is VAR? In the autoregressive, how the current value of the variable is related with the past value of that variable. So, which variable should we include in our, up to which line? 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 2 units back, 3 units back, like that. So, we have criteria like the likelihood ratio, the field error ratio estimation, criteria, the archaic information criteria, the Schwartz information criteria, and the Hankin information criteria to identify, to select the lab orders. So according to all these criteria, it is optimal to include only one lab. This start. Actually, I'm using ABU's software to analyze this thing. So that software shows me that the variable or your variables are okay if you take only one lab, 1 year back. So I'm okay with this. Then we go to the part. So after specifying the lab name selection, let me see how many integrated or how many variables are co-integrated, how many orders or how many variables are integrated. We don't know the endogenous variables. You know, in co-integration analysis we have for the time 2 methods: the Johnson integration, co-integration analysis, and the Engel-Granger co-integration analysis. The Johnson analysis considers all the variables are endogenous. So if all the variables are endogenous, there is no exogenous variable. Which one is our exogenous variable? Or my interest is to make export as endogenous variable and the other variable are exogenous variables. But I don't know. Let me see the data or the result. So the result shows me we have this for integration analysis. We have 2 criteria: the max eigenvalue and the trace statistics. So according to the max eigenvalue, the hypothesis of no co-integration is rejected. The hypothesis of no co-integration is rejected. Look, this value and the critical value. Compare the Johnson test statistics with the critical value at 5%. This is greater than. See the other, they are less than the statistics value. Okay. The max eigenvalue selects or rejects the no co-integration. What about the trace statistics? It also rejects the no co-integration. So this result tells us there is at least one co-integrating vector. There is at least one co-integrating vector. Okay, which means the first. There is at least one co-integrating vector. Okay, now we have one co-integrating vector. But which variable is endogenous? Now we have at least one endogenous variable. The others are exogenous variables. Which variable is endogenous? We can run another test, which is weak exogeneity test. The weak exogeneity test looks the probability values and the likelihood ratio test restrictions. Export, plan of export, is it endogenous or exogenous? Okay, look, we compare these values, the probability value in econometrics. We use normally 5% level of significance and 1% level of significance. This number is pretty less than 1%. So at 1%, we reject the hypothesis of exogenous. So non-export is no more exogenous, which means non-export is endogenous. But for the other, we accept the null. They are endogenous. I mean, they are exogenous. The other variable. So the conclusion here is this indicates that there is unique co-integrating vector that carries a long-run relationship. So among those variables, export is the endogenous variable. So we can find the elasticities. What is that elasticity? Elasticity, responsiveness. What is the percentage change in rigidity of trading partner? The impact of percentage change on income or export. Elasticities. That is, I call it the betas, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, like that. So look, whether they are significant or not, we can see this one, the probability values, the standard errors, and that is statistics. So all variables might take this somewhat, but no problem. All variables except the real GDP of trading partner. Look, the standard errors or the t-values. The t-values is pretty less than 1.96 at 5%. The t-value is 1.69, which is less than, which means the real GDP of trading partner is no more important in explaining the theocanic sequence. whether American GDP increases or decreases, there is no impact on Ethiopian export. Why? I don't know. We will come to that. The other is effective exchange rate. They are negative because it is endogenous. We take to the right side and they become positive. All are statistically significant. This is at 1% significant, 1% we can see the T values, T statistics values, but here infrastructure is at 5% because it is greater than 1.96. A normal distribution table, if you see a normal distribution table, the T values, it is 1.6. It's pretty greater than that number. Okay, as I said, we have to conduct diagnostic tests, 5%. The vector autoregressive, that autocorrelation, there is no autocorrelation. There is no problem of normality, there is no problem of heteroscedasticity. By looking simply the p-values of the chi-square statistic values. Okay, so we have seen these are the elasticities. 0.7, it is negative, but all the variables are on one side, so we have to take to the other side, it becomes positive, which means when relative exchange rate changes by 1%, export changes by 0.7%. 0.7%. Or we can interpret all the other coefficients like this. Okay. So when we come to the short-run dynamics, we can take the difference of the log values of our data. So we can see here only in the short run trade openness can explain the export, which is we can simply see the probability value which is less than 5% or 1%. There is no other values which is less than 5%, which means that all the other variables are insignificant in the short run. They are insignificant in the short run. Only in the short run, only openness can explain it. But we are not interested in the short-run dynamics, we are interested on one variable, which is the error correction model. The error correction model, look this value, negative 0.6. So we are talking about some long-run trends. But we may put some long-run trends like this. But it is otherwise to think that all the day, all the year, our export goes all smoothly. It shows ups and downs on the long-run trends. That means whenever export deviates from its long-run trend, this is the speed of adjustment. How long it takes to back to its long-run trend? How long it takes to, there is convergence. It will converge, negative. It will converge to its long-run path. How long? So my data is annual data. So whenever the adjustment will be negative, which shows that variable will converge to its long-run equilibrium after taking 61% annual adjustments. 61% annual adjustments. Per annum, the speed of adjustment is 61%. That means, for example, if it is 50%, it takes 2 years to come back to its long-run trend. Now it is less than, it takes less than 2 years to come back. Whenever there is deviation or shock, it will take less than 2 years to come back to its long-run trend. Okay, these are as usual the model diagnostic tests, the normality, error test, the autocorrelation or serial correlation, heteroscedasticity, no problem about these problems. Okay, this is all about my data. Let me come to conclusions and policy recommendations. What's the conclusion based on this result? So the result shows from the descriptive analysis, we can see that there is an increasing trend in export, but the empirical finding on Ethiopian export determination model confirms that real GDP of both countries, real effective exchange rate, private sector credit as measure of financial development, openness to trade, infrastructural developments are positive and significant determinants of the country's export. Okay, this is based on Ethiopian export, not based on the World Trade Organization or the IMF. Just I collect data from Ethiopia and then I give conclusion and I'll give based on the finding, I will give my policy recommendations. Just they don't collect data. Ethiopian export is low, so Ethiopian government, please open your trade. Please liberalize finance. Please liberalize this thing. So first we have to identify the root cause of the problem so that we can find the medicine for that. Okay. So rigidity of trading partners are found to be statistically significant. This might be due to the fact that Ethiopian export is dominated by primary products. Theoretically, primary products are income and price inelastic. Income and price inelastic. Okay. So trade liberalization or openness was found to be the only determinants in the short run. It's found to be positive and statistically significant. The policy recommendations thus will be the policy recommendations. The result of this suggests that the country needs to transform export structure because monetary income is insignificant. So this theory acknowledges it is because that agricultural export is income inelastic. So we need to, if we need to use an increased income of our trading partners, we need to transform our export or diversify our export from agriculture to some manufacturing. And the quantitative and policy and state exchange rate policy has to be implemented. So the government has to control uprising movements of domestic price and allow further nominal depreciation to increase or boost export. Government should work on more with the major trading partners to liberalize trade, succeed its aspiration to join the World Trade Organization. This can be done through bilateral and multilateral trade agreements by reduction of tariff and other trade restriction mechanisms so as to maintain export growth. In promoting Ethiopian exports, the role of maintaining high and sustainable economic growth is indispensable because maintaining this has an implication in boosting the supply capacity of the country's export. The role of communication and transportation service should be, this is under infrastructure development, so this should do emphasis also. Access to finance is critical, that means financial development. This can be maintained by further reduction cost of borrowing, improving institutional qualities, controlling inflation, and reducing the government budget deficits. So, I would like to say thank you. So, if you need this full paper, the paper is published by this journal, adinajournal.com. You can find the paper from this website. Thank you for your.
A big thank you to the third presenter, Galaya Kasab of Ethiopia. When he gesticulates in a presentation, you see that he's endowed with what he has just submitted to the audience. You can interpret on your own, with your own perception that he's endowed with mathematical and quantitative stuff within his intellectual capital. Considering what he has just outlined, talked about the export system of Ethiopia, that there was stability initially, but the decline was as a result of the conflict Ethiopia had with Eritrea. That led to the decline. And then later it took off to another level. Several components were outlined, but if there are ambiguities to be clarified by the presenter, I can now ask for just 2 questions so that the presenter can easily clarify the ambiguities. Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Which reminds me in math class. Actually, from the equation you presented to us, that natural law of export value, there are variables like alpha, beta, and epsilon, which actually I don't actually understand what they are presenting in that equation, because I'm looking at the dependent variables, because these variables, without them, raise the echelon value. I want you to clarify these variables wherein you use beta, alpha, and the subscript of these variables so that one can get it clear. That's right.
Okay, thank you. This just was rushing to find out on time. These are why I use first. Why I use linear. When I convert this variable into log linear model, which means we can this alpha, beta 1, beta 2. This beta 1 is the subscript indicates that the coefficient for rigidity of training outputs. What is this beta? This is simply elasticity. The changing, what is the impact of changing, percentage changing rigidity of training partner on percentage changing dynamics? This is simply when you take the first derivative of this function with respect to the partial derivative with respect to this one, to this is dependent variable, partial derivative, you will get the term, which means slope. This slope is elasticity, which means the percentage changing rigidity of training partner on